Good morning, lovely souls. Happy Saturday. Friday Ascension update has been moved to Saturday this week. Yesterday was allocated to moving my son into, well, quite a few hours drive away to his university, which he is now he's in his second year. So big day yesterday, lots to do, lots of driving. So here I am on Saturday instead. And it's a very fresh morning. So I'm starting to get to the time of year now where I will be donning my winter gear to come out into the woods. It's about 3 degrees in the UK, which is a lovely change, big change. And speaking of change, we're watching these energies kind of roll out and these situations occur all around us at the moment. But what I want to look at is the state of which we analyse and maybe judge these situations, maybe judge the people that are involved in these situations. And one of the most vividly telling scenarios has been what has been happening in the UK recently. And of course, there's this huge outpouring of energy and in many cases kind of grief individually and collectively about I'm not going to mention any names, but the passing of a certain person. And in many cases we are looking at this from a higher perspective. We're watching it all occur. I've been viewing it almost as if it's happening on a TV screen or a window, or maybe even a submarine portal to another planet. You can look through it and you can see all of this stuff going on. But I've also noticed a massive divide in the way we've perceived this, and also people's reactions to it. And although many of us claim to be awakened, aligned to the higher self, there is also a lot of judgment coming from those in the light community, those in the awakened, or what we call the truther community. And it brings me to the conclusion at the moment that we're all still working through that shadow of division. Okay, so when things occur around us, we have an option. We have an option of either simply observing it for what it is, analysing what occurs within that, maybe putting those factors into the various boxes that we understand them as, or actually energetically tuning in and becoming a part of a field of grief, judgment, happiness, all of these different things. But the one thing that is very much part of our collective shadow at the moment is the view that we are better than maybe somebody who is perceiving something, a situation differently, because they obviously aren't in the know or perceiving it like we are. And this is simply another facet of 3D consciousness or ego-based consciousness, because in order for us to look at another individual or another group of individuals and actually cast a judgment on their level of awareness because of the way they are reacting to a situation, or maybe something that they post, is very telling about what we are personally working through. And when you know, we're all working, we're all striving for this. We are part of a heart-based community. When we're all sharing this heart field, and we've achieved the various little initiations and tests that we go through to achieve that, that field, it's going to be, as we're moving into a state of acceptance, is in alignment with the vibration of unconditional love. So again, and I used this analogy the last time, imagine being an angel, maybe the guardian angel of an individual, or the collective angel that's watching over a certain situation. If you'd been here, if you'd been part of that job, if you've been doing that job for the last 10,000 years, angelic, you'd be pulling your angelic hair out. You'd be like, what on earth is going on here? So in order to have worked alongside us, to have viewed us, to have continued to love us unconditionally, the angelics will have had to have just stood from a point of compassion without actually intervening or feeling the need to put their personal stamp on a situation, and just watched the flow of events whilst we all learn our personal lessons and move through that. And that's very much, I feel, what is the personal mission of the light community at the moment. And I don't say this lightly, because there are so many pitfalls and so many little kind of snares that are put up for us on the path to enlightenment. So the path of enlightenment is something we are, in whatever facets we are engaging with, it's striving for. You know, we take on this mantle, this role of leadership, working for the light, working for the planet, working for the higher good, working for the truth. But all truth is down to personal perception until it actually becomes a larger field of resonant truth. So we've all got our own truths. We've all got our own personal view of reality. There's 8 billion different opinions on this world at the moment about how things operate, the way things are. And each of these personal truths align with the individual or the collective truth that individual is part of. So it's multiple layers, and it's all down to where people are on their pathway at this time. So what I'm trying to say is, who are we in this enlightened state to cast judgment on where people are at the moment? The mission, I feel, whilst collectively creating a field of higher love, of higher consciousness to move into, is to hold these lower frequencies in a state of grace and allow them to move forward. So in the UK, we've got this huge outpouring of collective grief. Now that collective grief becomes inevitably, it becomes part of our responsibility to alchemize, to clear, because it's not just a collective grief for this moment, it's a collective grief that goes back hundreds, thousands of years, that's all being brought to the surface. Now, to tune into that, to become part of it, brings up the triggers from the past, all of the things that we've experienced. But in order to alchemize that and assist it to move into a higher state, into a higher light, it just needs to be held. It needs to be observed. It needs, in many ways, to just be allowed the alchemy of its process. So we are going to be very much seeing this. We're going to have many opportunities, as we've had for the last 2 years, to be able to cast, a judgment on where somebody is or where a group of people are. And that is becoming more and more obvious, and it's becoming more obvious as the spheres of reality begin to part company from each other. If you've watched my other video, you'd have heard me talking about the 4 spheres of reality that Archangel Michael pointed out, the 3D, 4D, 5D, 6D, all intertwined, Well, each of those spheres at the moment is being highlighted with its particular, say you've got a reality, and each of those reality has, and each of those versions of reality very much has text or fine print to describe it. Instead of being in small hand italics, normal kind of print, the kind of the versions of it are being very much lit up. So the writing, or the ability to be able to see and read that now, is in fluorescent glowing writing, so that we can see very clearly the facets of it, the working cogs, how it actually operates. So now more than ever, it is a time to stand back and view this, view what's right for us, view what actually resonates with our hearts, but not get involved in the process of judgment. Sort of, and in many ways, this occurs online, it occurs in conversation, it occurs with interpersonal reactions or interactions with people, where we take something which isn't right, strip it down and analyse it, and say, well, this is the correct version. That does not create an alchemy for change. It just creates more of the version of reality that we're viewing, that we're analysing. So how do we, from a fifth dimensional standpoint, observe what is occurring on this planet at the moment? And again, it comes down to the compassion of standing back and just holding it. Not completely fully, like we can be completely disassociated from something and still observe it. Okay, still hold it in that light of compassion without adding our energy into it. And this has been, and still is, one of the biggest tests that we've got on the pathway to allow the growth, the change, the transformation to occur on this world without reacting to it, without getting drawn in, without it actually affecting how we then go about our daily business, how we go about interacting with others, how we bring through the information to give to another person in a form of teaching, leading by example. So in this position of leadership that we all have a position of individual leadership when we take on this role. It is a responsibility that I've seen that all of us are shouldering to some degree, to be the leading lights, to be the people, the humans in physical form, that take on the mantle of fifth dimensional responsibility in order for other people to rise to it. And when others aren't meeting our expectations, like many of them aren't at the moment, it then brings up the personal reactions that we have. The thing that I think we will see a lot of over the next 3 months is us working through how we react to this perceived division in consciousness, the judgments that we cast. And it's an interesting process, because as humans, we emotionally respond to things. Our emotional responses are part of our humanity. They're part of what we are intricately gifted with on this world to be working through, to find, to refine and hone. And we're getting the opportunity to do that at the moment. We're very much so. And so when we're watching the state or the consciousness of another human soul, another person who might be on the light pathway, might have woken up, might be, like spiritually integrating, or they might simply still be what we would class as confined into the third dimensional matrix, the consciousness. Just take a few moments to step back And if they're not meeting the expectations that we feel, just hold that person in the light and see the difference of the flow of energy. Because the way that we view people, the way that we the way that we actually look at another soul and perceive them in our mind, and inevitably kind of go through the casting of the judgments, then becomes a version of reality. That person then becomes that version in our personal minds. We project that outwards, and it becomes part of our biosphere of our reality that we include in all of the things that we think about. So it's very important, I feel, to step back at this moment in time, and regardless of what people are putting out, regardless of what they're talking about, whatever they're adding their energy to hold them in the light. Okay? And you know, this has been going on for years now, hasn't it? Since the beginning of all of the lockdown, we saw this incredible sort of like, and many of us go, we straight away saw where people were when they reacted to the circumstances of what was going on in the world. So I'm talking about February 2020, March 2020, when immediately the planet began to change and people responded according to the way that they were programmed, the way that the level of consciousness that they were currently tuned into, whether they were completely plugged into the matrix, whether they were removing themselves from the matrix, whether they'd already removed themselves and were kind of ready for what's going on. And it became almost like a vocation to assist people in seeing what the truth of the situation was. But we've learned that if somebody or an individual soul or a group of collective people aren't ready to see, they will not see. They will only see when they are ready. And that is a process. That is down to their own spiritual agreements and contracts. So many of the people around us at the moment are all on their own timelines. They're on their own missions. They will wake up when they've contracted to, when they're ready to. That might be a trigger from you. It might be something that you're carrying within your fields. It might be some information that you impart. But how we impart that information is critical. So when we hold our light, when we've got that mastery within us that we pass on to others, it is not done from the soapbox anymore, okay? And for thousands and hundreds of thousands of years, information was drummed into the masses by an individual or maybe a group of individuals placing themselves on pedestals to roar this information out. This is the way it is. You either believe this or you will suffer the consequences of this. So the era, and I heard myself speaking about this on Sunday at the live event in Beaulieu, the era of the guru is over. Okay, so there's many gateways to this test as well, where people look at one person for the answers. That one person holds the key to enlightenment, to the ease and grace of their own particular pathway. That no longer exists. That template is that belongs to the third dimension. The pathway to enlightenment, your guru is you. Okay, nobody knows more than you do about where you're going, what you're doing, what your plan here is on earth. And to look to somebody else for those answers it's a natural instinct. Okay, it's a natural instinct that we want to be given the information that we need to step forwards. And the biggest tests always come from maybe being given that information to begin with to get us going, and then having it taken away. So we've got to make our own decisions. We've got to then move into that kind of almost that tunnel of isolation where you've got no information coming in. Your guides, your angels, they're all stepped back. People seem to be stepping back. and you're left to your own devices while you begin to start to turn inward and look for the answers. The future leadership of this planet will be a collective thought structure. It will not be down to individuals. It will be down to individuals to inspire it to work. But when we have a society, or almost like a planetary consciousness that is supportive and balanced and in a fifth dimensional frequency, we will all be putting our light and our knowledge into a collective pool so that we can use it, and it will all chime at a certain frequency. No power will be gifted to one or maybe two people or a structure of people so that they can oversee what is occurring. So removal from that group energy at the moment, I believe, is very important. The casting of judgments, the analysis of where people are at the moment, and just holding souls in the light if they are clearly struggling or making the decisions that aren't aligned with a higher process. And no more so of a reminder than what is occurring at the moment with the very much the divided consciousness that exists before us, and the things that we are seeing. I think October, November, December and January are going to have all of these energies highlighted in neon for us as Uranus has gone into retrograde. And this is the planet that's bringing it all up. This is the planet that's showing us so very clearly what is going on, what needs to be rectified, how to work through it. So adopt the role of an angel. It's bigger than you think, okay? Operating from a point of love rather than judgment is incredibly challenging, especially when we feel or believe that we know what is right for ourselves, for others, and for those of us around it. For those around us, it's a big one. So that's my Friday, that's my Saturday Ascension update. Okay, moving from a place of judgment into a place of acceptance. Okay, unconditional love is a word that is bandied around very readily in spiritual communities. Unconditional love, unconditional love. What does it mean? Well, love without condition is literally love without anything attached to it, just love for the sake of love. And that's an angelic quality. Okay, that's an angelic quality. That's a quality that the angels have themselves refined and honed and used in order to be responsible for working with humankind as they develop, as they move through the gateways and the processes. And a lot of us are aligning with these angelics now, and we can empathize and we can understand how their job, or how difficult, or we could perceive how difficult their job must be, looking at a situation where they know that they could intervene. They know that they could step in and just create a totally different reality just by adding their energy or saying this is right and that is right. But they've had to stand there and watch us grow. At the moment, you and I have got to stand here holding the world in love and watch it transform, watch it alchemize. But it's not going to do that if we are adding our emotional state to that, and that emotional state is coming from our own shadows, from the things that we need to work through. Right, I'm off. I'm going to go and get warm. And I'll be back on Monday with a meditation Monday. Sending you all so much love. Talk to you soon. Bye.